And I think women have to own that responsibility in a very heavy-duty way, and there's a lot that aren't. And there's also a lot that are saying, oh, but my partner's not comfortable, my husband's not comfortable, whatever. It's like, too bad.
Hi everyone and welcome back to No Place Like Home. I'm Jess and we are here with Larissa.
Hello.
And the wonderful Fiona Hallinan, who if you haven't heard of before, my goodness me,
Get
you're
around
gonna fall
it.
in love today. Thanks for coming on our podcast, Fee.
My pleasure, Jess.
Shall we start with a little bit about your background? So who are you? What do you do? Where did it start?
Yeah, well, it sort of started as a very lost 18, 19-year-old and doing science at Monash and being very lost, miserable, and finding I had this gorgeous boyfriend who was so much older than me. And he,
How much older, may I ask?
I think he was about 8.
Starting on a juicy story.
I know. I think he was about 8 years. Sadly, I dumped him for a Greek guy that was 10 years, but never mind. Yeah, Darlin Bryan was a radiographer and he was trying to get into medicine through the back door at Monash, how they used to do it then. So he knew the hospital system and he knew I was miserable and lost, and he said, he used to call me F. Hallinan. He goes, you'd make a good nurse, F. Hallinan. I go, really? What? Never even considered it in my life. Went and did nursing. So I went the old way, the hospital way, no university. First day on the job, loved it. Thought, yep, here we go, I'm home.
So back then, did you just go, there was no study prior?
No, you just start in the job. You have
Like an apprentice?
You have 6 weeks, what's called PTS, preliminary training school. I could tell you about my first shift. I remember it very clearly.
Wow.
I doubled with a bird, a nurse who was senior called Philomena. I still remember her name. We were down on the first floor and there was a man, I thought he was an old man. He was probably my age now or younger. God help me. And he had some bowel surgery and had a big colostomy bag. And Phil said, you stand there, and she had to wash it out with warm water. And she stood on the business end, the good end, but I was down on the shit end collecting. And she had to wash it through. And I remember I had to cover it with respect, and I had to take it to the pan room and get rid of it and not show anything on my face. I remember going to lunch at the canteen. Spaghetti bolognese for lunch.
No.
I remember ringing my mum and saying, if this is nursing, Mum, I'm going to get real skinny. Anyway, that quickly shifted, and a week later I was eating like anybody else. Yeah, but that's how you learnt on the job,
Right.
with people guiding you, and just learnt that way. And it was brilliant. It was strict. Man, it was strict. Real strict, but it was fantastic. And then I went from finishing my nursing, and I went to a year to do work at Peter Mac, and they put me in the breast ward. And there was a lot of young women there coming and going from different treatments, and I was crying every night. And after 6 months, I went to the senior nurse, at administration, and said, I'm really sorry, I have to leave. I can't stop crying. And she said, I still remember this very clearly. She says, oh, my dear, you need to go and do something that's 99% happy and 1% sad instead of 99% sad, 1% happy. And I'm like, what's that? And she said, you need to go and be a midwife. And I was like, what? I couldn't have thought of anything worse. Nothing worse. Anyway, I did. I went and did midwifery. And again, first day on the job, I went, here we are, I'm home.
Oh.
This is it.
Did you cry your eyes out the first time you saw a baby born?
Nah.
Oh,
I was too
I do
excited.
every time. Yeah, I could get so emotional,
I was
even
just
if it's a video.
gobsmacked.
Yeah.
Look,
Such
to
a
this day,
miracle.
you see a baby come out and you still think, how on earth is that happening?
Yeah.
How old were you at that time, Fiona?
Doing nursing, I was 20 by the time I got in, and I was 26.
Right.
Yeah. I think I was 26. Well, I was 26. It was 1989. So this year, now, March, I'm a midwife 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And still practicing midwife or?
In a form, not in a
Yeah.
hospital setting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still consider myself a midwife.
Yeah, of course you would after that long.
Yeah.
I think once a midwife, always a midwife.
Yeah,
hey?
yeah. Well, I'm still feeling a lot of babies. I'm still giving a lot of guidance in that way. So, yeah, it's good. And so both those trainings, they were trainings. They weren't degrees. It was on the job.
Yeah.
It's always the best way.
It was brilliant. I mean, sometimes it was very scary. You'd go home going, I don't know what the hell I just saw. And you'd have to nut it out and ask your teachers and ask your clinical teachers. I remember the first baby I caught. I was in the corner of a room and a woman was on a birth stool.
Wow.
And the clinical teacher couldn't get to me. She couldn't get over me because the baby was there. And I just was in my element. And she looked at me, she goes, you managed that very well. I thought, well, it's not rocket science. Like, it was coming on its own anyway, this little one.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while.
But I was just absolutely pumped. You know, I just thought, this is brilliant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was super.
It's such a beautiful time when you find that place in the world that you're like, I've arrived.
Yeah.
Like, this is what
I've had that
breathe.
lucky stroke twice with Brian and then this other lady, this other nurse, that they guided me. They were like fairy angels, and both times was in absolute disbelief. And I just followed what they said to do. Basically, I felt pretty hopeless. I didn't know what else to do. And I landed, and it was like, oh. But I never wanted to be a midwife. I'm second born of 6.
Oh, wow.
And my youngest brother's nearly 16 years younger than me. So I've been looking after babes and doing nappies and for a long time.
Did you ever see any of your siblings born?
God, no, I never saw my mother in the nude, love.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Catholic family.
Yeah, but it was, I'm 60, The most I ever saw my mother in less clothing was she still had a petticoat on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so no way.
And so how was your experience as a midwife? You loved it, obviously.
yeah.
You're still doing it now, so
Yeah, it's the best profession.
yeah.
Yeah, I had some wonderful teachers, and I was privileged to work with some wonderful midwives, but I was also privileged to work with some wonderful old obstetricians. So I saw some phenomenal skills in both skill sets and both professions, and it's not the same now.
No,
It's
it's
the
not.
same.
Yeah.
So we're here. What do you think that shift was?
I think it's getting worse. It actually makes me very sad. It also makes me very angry. There's a lot of surrendering of old skills. There's a lot of technology coming in, taking over the power of the hands and what hands can feel. And so there's a lot of old midwifery practice that are going.
Yeah.
So it's just becoming more and more watered down obstetrics. And sadly, I think midwives aren't being given the opportunities to be courageous, but they're not taking them as well. And they need to really grab that bull by the horn and give someone a good old hip and shoulder and go, out. This is normal. Therefore, it's my crew. And when it's abnormal, respectfully, I'll call you. And so I was very blessed, in the 90s to work with, there were some real shockers, but there's some brilliant obstetricians that knew their place. And we knew our place. And the dance was quite harmonious.
What a beautiful way of articulating it. Yeah.
And still you had some very unpleasant things go on, but you also, when you, I remember an obstetrician, I won't mention names, but dear man, very skilled, very gentle, very much love babies and very much love women. And I remember one day this woman was working hard and all of a sudden he got up and went out of the room. He'd come for the baby was going to be born and had called him. And he went out of the room and he came back with a bowl with water in it and ice and a fresh face washer. And I've looked at him like, what the hell are you doing, man? And he's just whispered at me, almost apologetically, she just looks so hot, Fee.
Oh.
I said, thanks, love. Oh. You know, and you just, you know.
Yeah.
I've been privileged to see that. And him and others so tired, middle of the night, and you've called them for a birth and we're down on the ground or whatever, and you have to give them a little shake or a little bit of a kick on the arse with your foot because they've gone to sleep and she's about to push again. She couldn't care less, but it's like, mate, you're here to catch, aren't you? Otherwise, off you go and I'll do the catch. Yeah. But nice things.
I'm sure you would have so many stories.
Oh, yeah.
To tell. Good,
Beauties.
bad, all the in-between.
Yeah.
When did you get introduced to the holistic wellness?
Before or after kids?
Before kids.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you did your midwifery and then did you have children or were you a mother?
89 I did mid, 89 to 90. And then I became a mother first time in 97.
And
97, 99.
I mean, you would have seen so many births by then.
Yeah,
So I imagine that your work as a midwife greatly impacted your births.
Yeah, well, you're just really clear about what you want.
Yeah. And how about, what was postpartum care like back then?
Oh, it was long.
Yeah.
I was used to looking after women for 8-9 days.
Yeah.
Fresh bed every day. Helping with the baby at night.
Yeah.
Babies in the nursery, bringing them in for feeds, helping mothers sleep. You know, the young midwives don't know what a full breast is anymore.
Yeah.
The mothers are gone home.
Yeah.
They don't know how to manage.
So true.
So
They don't know
yeah.
how to manage full breasts of milk and mastitis and moving through that challenging time and soothing her. They don't know what a bluesy day looks like anymore and holding her while she's still crying because she's only 4 days in. And she's, in my day, they were still in hospital.
Did you have your babies in hospital?
My first baby was in hospital. My second was at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And was the care still there when you were at home? Did you still get?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Well,
at that time, was it not? Was that quite? What's the word I'm looking for? Adventurous comes to mind, but it's not the word. But you know, that would have been quite unorthodox to have a home birth at that time, or not?
No, some were. There's been home birth in Melbourne for a long time.
Yeah, or it was probably normal then, and then we went through that patch of like, don't give birth at home.
I wanted to have my first baby at home, but my then husband was fearful, and which was, you know, a bit oxymoronic because he was an Englishman, and his mother had two of the three at home, but the first was him and born at hospital. And so I surrendered to that, but it was also a money issue at the time. We didn't have money. And I let go with that. But also, there was the birth centre. So the women's birth centre was open and my mates worked there. So it was like, I can go there.
Yeah.
Katie's there for me, you know, it'll be fine. Yeah. So, but I would never have gone, I was never going back. Not for a second time.
Right.
Even though you knew the system and...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, never gone back.
Yeah.
And I know this might sound a bit controversial and maybe a bit intense, and maybe it's because of my experiences with the father of my children, and we did not have a harmonious marriage. Not at all. But women have to do the work, right? Mm-hmm. We got to birth the kids. So we decide how we do it.
Oh, yeah.
And we decide where we do it and with whom we do it. And that happened the second time.
I can't stand it.
I basically said to Stevie, if you're not comfortable, get the hell out of here. I'll do it on my own. You were no help last time.
Yeah.
Not his fault. He's a bloke. What do we want? He can't understand it. I've seen great men as midwives, like not as midwives, but midwifing their wives.
Yeah.
But he was not one of them. He was one of those, like my brothers, that themselves and went to the corner. No problem, no big deal, had no expectation. It was my work to do as a woman. And I think women have to own that responsibility in a very heavy-duty way, and there's a lot that aren't. And there's also a lot that are saying, oh, but my partner's not comfortable, my husband's not comfortable, whatever. It's like, too bad.
You know what helped a lot for us with the home birth is Andy, my husband, knew to trust me, but I could tell he was still a bit unsure. And then we were in London and we stumbled upon this book. You know, there's this whole series of books, Do something, and this was Do Birth. And it's a tiny book. You can read it in one sitting. And he read it and he's like, absolutely, I'm fully on board. And I just think we need more resources like that for partners, but also, yeah, it's not up to them. And I can't stand it when I hear people saying, oh, I would really love to, you know, I wanted to give birth at home, but my partner wasn't comfortable. Them, they're not the ones having the baby.
They got it, yeah. And it's not to say that it's about home birth.
No.
I don't really care where women birth.
It's about having the birth that you want.
There has to be discussions, but ultimately she's got to step up and go, this is what's right for me to do that physical event.
But do you think now, Fiona, that that sense of empowerment and information and education has over the years been slowly stripped away so that women rely on the system more than they rely on themselves?
I think there's, from my viewpoint, as a postmenopausal, grumpy 60-year-old grey-headed woman, I have never seen women so denigrated and stripped of their power as we are seeing currently. I have never seen in my midwifery career so many ways that have been implemented to undermine the intuitive nature and the connection of woman to her baby as I'm seeing now. The language has changed. The denigration is up, and women are fighting a very hard battle to stay connected with baby, to stay connected with self, and to each visit another battle. Oh, your baby's too small, your baby's too big, you need another ultrasound. Even the language that's coming through from these ultrasonographers, shut your mouth. You are not there to comment.
But
women are being, their cervix is being assessed at their 20-week scan now.
What?
For the length of their cervix, because, oh, God forbid, if it's a little short, we'll shove progesterone things up there and make sure she's aware that she could have her baby early and she's at risk and therefore we should induce and this whole induction stuff and it's and then if I was going to the shadow side of this creation, I would say it's very clever, manipulative and conniving.
Oh, yeah.
If I go to the clear side, I go, it's fear-based. But if I go to the black side, it's ugly.
But do you think that we're in this point where women aren't, and I'm generalising very largely, do you think that we're at a point, though, that women don't actually know intrinsically what is going on?
Yeah.
So there's not even the concept of what you've just discussed.
But the midwives are.
But this is what I'm saying.
Where is their voice?
Yeah.
That's my beef. Where is their voice? Who are they there for? The system or the woman and the child? This isn't only just about the women. This is stuff that's affecting the health and the well-being of this next generation.
Yeah.
You create barriers to connection between mother and child, you have a society.
Yeah. Yeah. Your birth experiences in general, were they quite straightforward? Were they, for lack of a better term, a normal?
I had 2 normal births. My first baby was born 17 days over his due date, whatever a due date was. But I was blessed to have an obstetric mate. A couple of them offered to back me up if I ran into any trouble. We'll run for your fee. I felt very blessed about that. One, both I adored, and I was 100% confident in their skill set. But one I felt more comfortable. The midwife who worked in the rooms of one said, "Why aren't you letting so and so help if you need fee?" And I said, "Oh, I just couldn't bear him to see me with me undies off." And the other one I seemed to feel more comfortable with. It was a different sort of banter relationship. And
was it because he was too proper, or was he hot?
he was hot.
Yeah, okay.
I thought it was going to be the latter.
Yeah. Others wouldn't have seen that he was hot, but he was. I loved his spirit. He was a beautiful soul. And anyway, I went into labour myself, and I went like a bat out of hell. And then I stalled at 9 centimetres for 7 hours. And I got this unbelievable pain. It was what I now know to be urethral spasming, where my baby's head was probably pushing too far up against my pubic bone and trapping my urethra. So I was begging to die. I was praying out loud by this stage. I couldn't speak, but I managed to get out that, "God, I'm dying." Anyway, I knew in my head, I was using all the skills that I shared with others, and I knew in my head I couldn't let go anymore because of this pain. I do remember also saying at one stage, I was looking, my mother and my sister turned up, saying, "Just give me 12 more hours of the other stuff and take this away. Just take this away and I'll do 12 more hours of the other. It's nothing." Because that was a piece of cake compared to this.
Compared to that.
So anyway, I knew I was holding attention, and in my brain, even though I couldn't articulate, I knew that I only had one chance to get a vaginal birth, and that was to take an epidural. And so the midwives kept saying, my mate was there, but she just didn't know what to do anymore. And there was another midwife, and they kept saying that my water bag had gone, and I kept saying it hadn't. I knew it hadn't gone. Anyway, it was sort of one of those nasty vindictive moments of my life where we got into the lift and my water bag went in a Hollywood spectacular way. And I thought, yeah, clean that up, sucker. I was wild.
You so.
I was wild. Anyway, I knew then I could feel in my body, I was fully open. I could feel the difference. And I remember the conversation in the lift in my brain saying, "Fiona, you are now fully dilated. If the pain's better, you need to collect yourself and get pushing. And if the pain's worse, we'll go with plan A of the epidural." The pain was 100-fold worse. I remember getting into the room in the labour ward because I had to move out of the birth centre, and I'll still to this day remember the terrible look on the midwife's face. The degradation of, here's another birth centre failure. And the look on her face was just terrible as I walked into the room. And I got the epidural. I was fully dilated. The baby's head was there. And 40 minutes later, I'd pushed him out. And that obstetrician, he was going to back me up. He came. He caught my baby. And all he said to me afterwards was, "You were a goddess."
Oh.
Yeah, he was a beautiful man. And so, yeah, there I was. I had my baby, and he was a beautiful, beautiful lad, my Hamish. And
Wow.
I went back to the birth centre. I was just fine. I was good as gold. Stevie says, "I'll go and get an expensive bottle of champers." I said, "Forget that. Get me half a dozen VB stubbies."
I love that.
All I wanted was a beer.
Oh.
And
How was your recovery immediately after?
fine.
Yeah.
I was fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I was taught. My obstetrician mate said you might have some interesting sensations with weeing feet, but I was all right. I do know that for 10, 11 weeks I could feel every time I closed the muscles around my urethra, not in a painful way, but more a muscle ache way.
Yeah, okay.
Something had been messed with, but I was absolutely fine. Yeah. And then my second baby, my Phoebe, I had a mate who said, yeah, I'll catch her at home for you. And my children's father, Stevie, he knew Mandy really well and trusted her, so that helped enormously. I asked a second midwife because you had to have a second. I didn't know her well, but I knew she'd had a lot of babies and had all at home and had challenges with her placenta, so I knew she had tenacity. And Rhea Dempsey was there. She was my mate. She knew my head story. But my sister was there. And she, to be honest, as much as I loved them all, my whole team, the only crucial piece there was my sister. And I had my sister there to remind me of the stock from which I came. Yeah, and I nearly broke her thumb off, but yeah. And my baby came in like, it was quick, it was 2 3/4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, she came quickly.
And was planning for your postpartum a thing back then? Did people do meal trains? Did people, or was it just a given that your neighbours would bring food when a baby arrived? What was it like?
I prepared food.
Yep.
A lot of meals.
Yeah.
I prepared a lot of meals and had them frozen.
Yeah.
I did a lot of prep in that way. But I don't know if there were people would just bring meals, I guess, but I didn't have much family around, even though I'm one of a big family. My family were in the country.
Okay.
So it was
Right.
an hour and 3/4 away, an hour and a half away. And, yeah, so not so much really. You have friends. And then Stevie, he didn't have family. He had an aunt. And she visited, and she was brilliant later in minding my kids when I worked and stuff, but I didn't have much family support. Yeah.
Was that hard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real hard. Real hard.
Can imagine.
Yeah, I was pretty lost.
Oh.
I was very lost. Yeah.
So looking back, would you change anything?
I think on a lot. I don't cry about it so much these days, but I have done to recent times where when I think back and think, oh, God, I'd love to mother now with what I know, but I don't have the energy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it as a 60-year-old, but would I, should I, with everything I know now?
Yeah.
Oh, my, would I love to do that
with
now?
that.
Oh, God, the things, the times, the mother guilt, the oh, why did I do that? The loneliness of motherhood, the awkwardness.
So lonely. Even when you're in a room full of people, it's so lonely.
That adjusting to that role, and when I hang with my very two close friends are ultra-Orthodox Jewish women. They've got 10 kids each. And I'm often at Mindy's house. Ella's moved to the US now, so I was often over there. And when you're there or round at Razel's for a coffee, everyone just sits around. Like, these women are just deeply comfortable with the kids. And half the time I'm the one edgy. Oh, does the baby need something? No, leave the baby. It's fine, So what are you talking about? It's fine. Or the 5-year-old will go and pop the dummy back in, or the 5 or the 4-year-old picks the baby up from the pram. You think, geez, it's going to drop on the tiles any minute. No, everyone's fine. Everyone's relaxed. They're just so used to swinging and moving with these lovely children.
Just the flow of their family unit and that connection that they have.
Yeah. So I don't look back on postnatal time with fond memories. Yeah, I think I probably was with Hamish, with my firstborn, I was really relaxed like for 6 weeks. And then it was like stuff started to change. And I remember Stevie saying something. I was like, well, I know what to do up to 6 weeks, but that's because I'm a midwife, and now he's over 6 weeks. I don't know what to do anymore. And there was a whole lot of new learning. I wish I'd listened to myself more. I wish I'd been kinder to myself. I wish I went back to bed more often. I wish I watched the telly more often with the baby in my arms.
Yeah, that was just about to say to you, you know, what if there's things that you would tell women now in their postpartum,
and I do.
Would you tell them? Yeah.
You know, learn to live on cheese and biscuits and get a hot chook and bread rolls and go to the swimming pool on hot days and sit out there and take a beer in your backpack or a thermos or whatever and cordial and just sit there under a shade at pools and let the kids paddle, and dinner's done then. Stop, don't be such a purist, and they don't need a bath because they've been in the bloody chlorine. How much cleaner can they need to be? You know, and I just wish I'd done stuff like that instead of going, no. I used to see women still out walking their prams like at 5 at night thinking, look at her, she looks so damn relaxed. Why do I have to have got home to have made sure the kids were bathed and dinner and da-da-da-da-da? Yeah, so...
You're so relaxed now. I can't imagine you being so hypervigilant about schedules.
It's because my bed's made, my washing's done and my floors are clean at home, eh?
Fiona, this has been an amazing chat. We are going to chat to you more in another episode about your holistic approach now and wellness and pelvic health. So we'll look forward to chatting in the next episode. Thank you.
No worries. It'll be nice.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.